is everything comes on live here on all your channels, YouTube, SoundCloud, iHeartRadio, and all your channels where you get all your podcast channels. Welcome to Bridges Live Presents You Be the Judge. We're here every Wednesday at 6 p.m. talking to you about things that we are caring about and hopefully that you would take action about. I'm one of the co-hosts, Dr. Paul Dyer, and my lovely co-host, Judge Claudia Barber and Marilyn Pierre. Welcome, ladies.
Hi. Glad to see you all.
Thank you. And Claudia, I love it when you're here because when you are here, I get included in the lovely co-host part. When you're not, I guess I'm just chicken feed. That's okay.
She just gets ousted, right? She doesn't get included in the lovely. And oh my goodness, look at our great guest here. My other co-host from the Africa.
Yeah, I was talking with Dr. Butler today, and I said, "Oh my gosh, other people need to hear about your experience and what you've been up to because this is so interesting. I wanted to share it."
I just have to tell you, I do a lot of shows, and then when I'm with my other sister there, Dr. Butler, when we do Africa, it's just I love the amazing show of other people we connect with and other people we talk with. But before we get to there. How was the evening? Did you go to the evening yesterday, Judge Barbara, in Annapolis, of the event?
Well, actually, I am in a different state at the moment.
Look at you.
So,
are you allowed to tell us? Because you sound like you're incognito.
Yeah. Does the FBI know where you are? Or, I mean, they're always after you anyway.
Oh, well, they can't find me. So... but I am actually excited to be here. Yesterday, the Caucus of African American Leaders did have a presentation honoring the confirmation of Judge Ketanji Brown Jackson to the U.S. Supreme Court. That was quite a feat, and there was quite a bit of controversy around the questions asked by the GOP party during her confirmation hearings. There was a lot that can probably be said about her speech at the White House reception event. There were so many dignitaries there. I saw on camera, Reverend Jesse Jackson, my goodness, and so many others that were present at her. It really was a reception, if I understand it.
Well, because we do stand on their shoulders. We could not have gotten to where we are if they hadn't done what they did.
Who did? Because I tell you, the one thing we have to understand that who got Ketanji Jackson into that seat was black women. They're the ones who came out and voted. They're the ones who are the presence of out there who are pushing these voting limits. We are still missing a lot of black men. We're still missing a lot of black people who are not voting or who are not understanding what the caliber of what we need to do to get things done. And if we don't vote, and this has a lot to do with our lower elections, has nothing to do with the general. I mean, we got to do the primary. We got to do the midterms.
Yeah, but like we talked about last week, so many people are afraid to vote because they keep hearing the story about the woman who voted and got, what did you say, Judge Barber, 4 years in jail?
Yeah.
Woman in Texas?
For violating.
So people are saying, why should we vote if that's what's going to happen? I really think that's what's happening to the black men, because when I speak with them at the barber shops and other places, they're like, well, I don't know if I should vote. You know what I'm saying?
Now that story goes with Texas and Texas laws. And under Maryland, they did pass a restorative justice act that eliminated this albatross or whatever, or this question as to whether or not people who are out of prison, are they allowed to vote? If you are out of prison in the state of Maryland, you may vote. There is no prohibition. There is no, violation of probation and all that kind of thing. Maryland passed that law just a few years back, though, to make it clear that if you are an ex-offender and you are out of prison, you have the right and the opportunity to vote. Now, keep in mind, though, we still miss out on people who have been incarcerated, not yet convicted, but they're in jailhouses, but they're eligible to vote too. And unless people take the initiative to go to the jailhouse and explain that to them, we're missing on a population of people who are legitimate voters that can vote, and they may feel that they can't.
Ask a question.
Yes, Miss Kathy, please. Welcome to you be the judge.
Thank you. So I'm just wondering if anyone has heard about this voter integrity group's initiative to interfere with Maryland's election process. I attended a Board of Elections meeting, and apparently there was a lot of controversy about them purging our voter registration lists based on some information that this voter integrity group had fed them, saying that there were duplicate names on the list. And it turns out that those duplicate names were really just kids that were in college that were not voting in both places. They were just registered here in Maryland and attending school elsewhere. They also were attempting to have an audit done of the 2020 election, despite the fact that it was already certified bipartisan by both parties. And there was a lot of controversy at that meeting. And then later on, the Democrat that was, he spoke on that controversy, and he actually wrote an article in Maryland Matters addressing those particular issues. But he seemed to think that everything was going to be resolved satisfactorily. And I was just wondering if anybody had heard anything more about that.
Marilyn,
Dr. Butler has her hand up.
Yeah, Dr. Butler, you want to talk on that or what you're talking about?
Well, I don't know much about that. I raised my hand to ask another question regarding what Judge Barber had said.
But let me answer you. I did hear about that, Kathy, of the run-of-the-mill scuttlebutt about this election issue. I've gotten some emails. I've read it. I guess the question is what can we do as people? That's tough, Marilyn. Do you have any idea yourself? Did you hear about what was going on?
I think just keep an eye on it and make sure that that we do what we need to do. I agree with you. Yes, show up at the polls, make sure that the votes are counted. But I find it really disingenuous that these people, when they win, the vote is right. When they lose, there's something must have gone wrong. I mean,
it's so lopsided, and you can tell that they lack integrity and credibility if they win, everything is okay, and let's not do a recount because we won. But if we
let's stop counting.
Right. The election is all bad.
Let's stop counting. As a matter of fact,
don't certify anything.
They were discussing this today. They were saying that because of the way the absentee votes are counted, sometimes it looks like a person is a candidate is winning, and then the absentee votes get counted, and that person might not necessarily win, even though that person was leading. So now it's getting to the point where if they're leading, they want to stop the count.
This is where paying attention to what's going on at the poll is also important. Because there are a lot of scandals even at the polls. I distinctly remember in 2016 when I ran against 4 sitting judges, there were some improprieties, and also in 2018 when I ran against sitting judges, there were some improprieties that were never fully corrected. For example, there are people that are on the voting judges or the election judges side who were telling people that they have to vote for all four in order for the ballot to your vote to count and to be legitimate.
And that's not true.
If you didn't vote for all four, then that was just the biggest lie. But they did. But see, they do that anyway, you know. And so you got to watch that. There are shenanigans like that. Campaign literature that's not true. You're going to see that spread all over the place. The other thing, I remember in 2018, one of the voters informed me that when they went to the election ballot, where you cast your vote, right, there was this person who put on her computer screen, vote for Mark Crooks. Totally inappropriate.
At the screen.
Totally inside the ballot area where people are casting. There should not be any election hearing. But see, they get by with that mess.
One of the things that we are doing here at the Caucus of African American Leaders, as some of you may know, I know our co-hosts know, is that we're putting on this Black Action Convention. And that has a lot to do with information about voting. And it's not so much who to vote for, but how to vote. It seems to be like we need voter education. And then people say, well, where do I go get this education? Who do I get this education from? And when it comes to Maryland, and this is what really bothers me about the judges getting voted on when it comes to Maryland or whomever, even in your case, Judge Claudia Barbara, when there's tampering, purposely tampering with, so there's some ambiguity of who and what and how to vote, it pushes people out of the race purposely so these cronies can get their friends in again. Exactly. And that's the problem we are having. We have a problem with that with all voting. But when it comes to specifically sheriffs, judges, they really want certain people on that bench or in that seat because they need them there. But I'm going to get to Dr. Yvette. Yvette. Go ahead. Sorry.
Well, no. I just had a question going back to what Judge Barber said regarding the inmates being able to, incarcerated folks being able to vote and so on. Because one thing that's been happening is they don't even allow us into the facilities here in Montgomery County, I know, to even educate them. We've been trying to work with the criminal justice system here, and they're claiming due to COVID, no one's going in. So that's going to be a major problem with being educating, especially those who are incarcerated, to get out the vote. And I was going to ask, now, how can we get around some of that so that we can educate folks? And when I was at the polls the last election, there were several folks who, there was one young man who he's off. I'm finally off of parole, so I can vote. It was like, wait a minute, you could have voted anyway. But he thought still that until he got off parole. So it was his first time voting. He had just got off parole, and he was so happy to vote, and he voted for Maryland. We were so happy, excited about that. And he only came to vote for Maryland. But it was wild how he had been on parole, and he did not know that at this day and age in Maryland, the state of Maryland, that you can vote if, even though, so as soon as you're out of jail. And no one knew about the incarceration. So how do we really get some education out there? I mean, it's not being put out there, and they're not letting us get to the people. So how do we
the League of Women Voters does put out a publication on all the candidates that participate, that are willing to participate. But we literally have to up our game and even through podcasts such as this, have to educate people, especially so that a friend of a friend that hears us and understands that people who were incarcerated that are now free, they can't make the comparison with the state of Texas and the woman that voted, and she went, after she was released from prison, and she ended up being accused of violating the law. So of course they don't want to go back to prison for that. So that story scares them. But misinformation is misinformation, and you have to cure that only by spreading information, including links to state websites that show them the actual state law or some other credible source of information that explains in detail what that law is and how it allows people. In fact, when I was canvassing in the Annapolis area, in the neighborhood, this guy, I walked up to his house. I said, I was passing my either a flyer or a card out. And I said, you can, he said, I don't even know if I'm able to vote. I said, probably are. He said, well, I have a conviction. And I'm like, you have a conviction? Are you kidding? You can run for office. Are you kidding? Don't be scared by that. Are you kidding?
There's a lot of fear-based information that goes on, and I was just talking, recently when we talk about fear-based, there's a lot of things that the brain is unable to do, and I'll get into that in a whole different area. But fear does stop you from doing rational thinking. It's just part of it. It's part of the cortisol. It's part of what happens to your brain. It's part of what happens to the amygdala. It's part of what happens to the prefrontal cortex, and how it cannot disengage from a fear-based shelter thing. And that's what fear does, and that's why when people say, why do these keep pushing these fear-based information, is because this is not insulting, but of a person who cannot regulate their state of mind, their brain is activating in what you call a fear state active. And it cannot hear rational thinking or have rational thought. The hemisphere is actually displaced from itself. So it goes back into nothing but shelter, food, nothing but the primordial state. And it's just simple. And when people are living under a sense of, I'm not sure if I'm able, I'm not sure if I can, I'm not sure if I will be able to, that cortisol is pumping into their brain, and the chemistry is causing them not to be able to think clearly. There's no way around it. It's like it's trying to see things through a fog. And here's the thing. We who study the brain and study neuroscience, there are many programs that study it just as much as I do, and they work commercials off of it. So they're saying things on purpose to actually disengage people who are living in that fear state. And so when we try to talk to them, they are not comprehending. It's not because they don't believe what you're saying. It does not comprehend to them because of the state they're in. And that's the sad issue. And that has a lot to do with black and brown, economically deprived culture who's living in that. They're living in a fear-based state.
I can say more about the fear-based state, but I'll let somebody else talk.
I just wanted to ask, if you're dealing with someone in that state on an individual basis, how do you counter that? How do you deal with it?
You can counter it. I'm not going to get into it really big, but there is a way of countering it. And basically, you have to try to get them out of not the environment of the area, but the environment of the mental area. So that's really the answer to that. And then there's steps and work is in process.
Well, I would add to that it's a state of fear, just like people. They put people in fear during the lynching era. Mm-hmm. You feared the Klan that would pick up anybody off the street and lynch them. Mm-hmm. It is that fear mentality. And see, what goes behind that is the fact that was very impactful to Black people's lives, right? And their families' lives. Because the family would then be so fearful, they would drop everything and leave their house and move to another area just because they feared so badly what happened. Fannie Lou Hamer experienced the same thing. Shots fired at her house, when she decided to register to vote. All of that is just fear-mongering among citizens. They're just pushing that stuff, and the name of the game is to trick as many people as you can to convince them not to vote.
Right.
So that you don't have the numbers.
But I think what makes the fear powerful is that you have no legal protection. That's what gives the fear power.
Yep.
Yeah, you don't have it. Everybody knows the story of Rosa Parks.
Right.
She left Alabama for good. She was so fearful of all the death threats and everything else after the Montgomery bus boycott, and she feared that she would not be protected. That's what she feared.
And she probably wouldn't have been protected if she would have stayed. But I wanted to say one thing, and we're talking about this and what we can do. And I'm not sure how feasible it might be, but as we're going canvassing, especially Maryland, and we could try to talk to some other political officials, to have a one-pager or something attached to your canvass materials saying where people can vote. And saying the incarcerated folks, as well as those who've been formally released, they can vote, and having some of that on literature and linked to a website where they can go look. Because one thing that's going to happen, we're talking about this now, but first of all, most of the people we're trying to target does not read the Women's League.
That's right.
League of Women Voters.
League of Women Voters.
They don't read that.
It's available in the library and it's at the polls. Go ahead.
Yeah, but most of them don't read that. So the population that we're talking about. So if we're talking about the incarcerated population, the formerly incarcerated population, they don't read that, and all the other websites they will not go to. So we got to look at where they are and develop and design ways to reach them. And so we have to go to where they are. And as we canvass, we're going to go to homes that have people incarcerated, people formerly incarcerated. So we got to start thinking about how to get this information out in their hands and not have them go look for something, not have them go read something as we're putting materials out there in the field. Because I'm so passionate about making sure we, educating our community. And the only way you can educate our community is we have to go where they are. And that's been my whole motto is if I can talk all day long, but if I don't go to where they are,
it doesn't matter.
I am never going to reach them.
And that goes back to what Kathy said. I think, how to combat that for me is to have those conversations with people one-on-one, and that's meeting them where they're at. Because without meeting them where they're at, they stay in that same base. And we got to remember, how many times did people have to go down when we were registering people up to vote? They're like, I'm not voting because of ... KKK. They're going to burn my farm down. How am I supposed to make a living when you leave? There's still communities today that feel the same way. If I vote, how am I supposed to earn a living if they get, if I get fired? I heard about people getting fired. We hear about all these things, and it goes back to that mental state. And that's sad because it keeps us out still.
Well, that actually happened literally in Mississippi during Fannie Lou Hamer's a time period in the 60s. And 70s, and Mississippi was terrorizing people who registered them to vote. And that whole situation in Mississippi, the Klan was so infiltrated and the whole point is that Black people were never going to have a right to vote if states' rights prevailed, and that they would not only be able to not vote, but they also would never be able to serve on a jury. So thus you have Emmett Till jury verdicts, and that jury nullification types of verdicts. So it is that fear that even during Fannie Lou Hamer's era, there were situations where they had campaigns going on to try to get people door to door to register to vote. And they feared for their jobs. They said, I would not be able to, I don't know, my fear for my family prevents me from doing that. So no, I'm not going to get involved in that at all. It was that serious of a problem.
Marilyn, can you find that spreadsheet that we did with Ketanji Jackson and rating her against the other Supreme Court justices? Do you remember that sheet?
Oh yes, I remember. I could look for it while we have Dr. Butler tell us about her.
This is my short day, so I've got to end it in less than 5 minutes. But it was good speaking to everyone.
But before you go, Judge Barber, what do you think about the questionnaire that she did get then? The questions, Jackson, Supreme Court Jackson.
Some of the questions were insane and totally inappropriate. Do you go to church? Then the bulletin boards, the display showing, trying to connect her work on the Georgetown Day School Board with anti-CRT. So it was a lot of inappropriate things happened that were very unfortunate. And even trying to walk into Marsha Blackburn's trick question about what is a woman? Do you know what a woman is? Trying to trip her up in that way. But those tactics were severe and magnified, but they really were preaching to only people who want to hear that false narrative.
Thank you, Judge Barber. We'll talk more about that. Dr. Yvette Butler, are you available when she comes back on? And here's the thing.
Okay. No, I'm available now.
Okay.
Yes.
Oh, okay. You're available now. Okay, 26 pages. Okay.
I'm looking at a spreadsheet. I don't know if that's the one you want me to look at. The one that talks about
the comparison.
Oh, yeah, that's the one. Okay, let me share screen to see if this is.
And as this comes up, and most people who listen to this live on the podcast and who will be listening to the podcast, you'll have to go look at the spreadsheet. And basically what the spreadsheet is going to show is the difference between Ketanji Jackson and how she was, what she has done in her life compared to all the other Supreme Court justices. It's not even, there was like no comparison whatsoever. When they were asking her these questions, I was like, she's actually the only one that has been able to do this. She's actually the only one that's been able to do that. I mean, there's been other Supreme Court justices who doesn't even have the background or, like, okay, so here it goes. See, we're not even going to go with the public high school or anything like that, but we're going to get right into the legal matter, like sentencing and commissioner. I mean, the district judge. I mean, there's only one other, the Court of Appeals. I guess they all have that except for one. But if you look at this comparison, I want people to look at this comparison. A public defender. I mean, can people keep asking, how is she qualified? And did anyone else other than her ever get these questions? No. I mean, when Barrett came up, I think they didn't ask her much of anything. They really didn't. I don't ever remember them asking any hostile questions when Supreme Court Barrett came up for her judicial. Does anyone? Anyone at all?
Well, it happened so quickly. I'm not sure any of us, knew what happened. First of all, it happened so quickly, and all this turmoil that was happening, I don't think anybody paid that much attention to it. I think we were sort of like in shock in terms of what was happening to our democracy. Although, well, I should say to our republic. I forgot it's a republic, not a democracy. Holly?
But it was a foregone conclusion. The votes were in. I mean, they were trying to get it in quickly, and they had the votes to do it. There was no need. She could have, sung a song for all she needed to do.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But I think part of it is some of the fear that we talked about. I was reading something the other day, and they said that, I was reading that it says that Democrats prepare like they're going to have a pillow fight, whereas Republicans prepare like they're going to war. And so some people have got to learn to prepare better. and when you're preparing against somebody who takes this as seriously as some other groups do, you've got to prepare better.
And I kind of agree with Bernadette. I think here's what I was hopingly people talk more about the question about. I was hoping it wakes people up to the way that leaders who represent them and how they feel about this is outright racism. It's outright segregation in its largest format in verbiage. And no one said this. They were saying, oh, we need to vet her. We need to make sure that she is going to judge appropriately. If that was the case, then everyone would be asked equally the same amount of vigor the questions were. And it wasn't even close. I mean, the last time, I'm trying to remember what's his name, when they asked him about his high school and the raping.
Brett Kavanaugh.
Kavanaugh, right. And I thought that was a ridiculous question. You're trying to ask him about an incident that a woman said that happened with him in high school. Whether he did it or not, and if he didn't remember, I was kind of like, I kind of agree. I barely remember high school. He's lived a lifetime since then. Is there anything else you want to ask him? Anything else? Because that question, I thought that was offhanded.
Well,
does that go to character? Does that go to character?
Yeah.
If it goes to character about something he did when he was 16, 17, 18, and we are going to hold that for whatever he did at 18, and we don't even know, and I didn't say I didn't believe her. We just couldn't prove it.
Well, we didn't have any other people on the other side. No one. Well, they didn't call witnesses.
Yeah, I agree with Holly. I mean, the FBI said that they couldn't find Squeak when Squeak was in Delaware. I mean, they could have found. I mean, how big is Delaware? And they couldn't find Squeak.
They couldn't find him.
Yeah, I did try.
So you know, whereas I think if it had been, the current Supreme Court, the Supreme Court justice to be, they would have combed the end of the earth to find whoever it is. So certain people are scrutinized in different ways. Kathy, you wanted to say something?
No, I was just going to say they told the FBI to go back and reinvestigate, and they came back almost like the next day, saying they couldn't find anything. Yeah. So it was obvious they didn't even try. And I think that allegation was college related, not high school.
You're right.
No, it was high school.
Was it high school?
That was college related. See,
but there were something else. There were charges in college as well, I believe.
Yes.
Right?
And apparently there were other women who had complaints about him, but they never pursued that information.
Exactly. But you're also forgetting, you mentioned, it's also sexism, too. It's throwing in both things at the same time.
Yep.
You just had, and
and back then, when something like that happened, the question, and if a young girl from high school is saying this happened to me, people tend to ask her, well, how could you put yourself in that situation?
Yep.
What were you thinking? Why were you there? What were you wearing? I mean, all these types of things happen. The same thing with college. It's like, were you drunk? What were you doing? Wherever it was that you were doing that, he had occasion to do those kinds of things.
And there's been tons of pro athletes, tons of people who have abused women in colleges, and the school has swept it up under the carpet. They have covered it up, and I'm sure Kavanaugh had the money to cover up all his misgivings, just like that Duke lacrosse team. They covered her up. They swept her up. That girl that got raped by that lacrosse team, you never heard anything else about it.
Yeah, something popped up on my feed, and it was a report 5 years ago about some allegations against Justice Thomas, where this 24-year-old said that, she was at an event and he groped her. That was, he denied it, and that just went away. Unless if that hadn't popped up on my feed, I never would have known about
it. There's another thing that they said the first vicious, I read this in the paper, first vicious hearings began with Louis Brandeis, and it was incredibly anti-Semitic. So, I mean, we really have a history of this, we haven't, I think it was the prolonged scrutiny. There was an editorial that said we just don't need to have this. This could be reformed. It's not valuable.
So with that being said, Holly, it goes back to what I'm saying. This is rooted in specific racism and segregation. People only get away with this if they are of certain types of people, white men. This is what's really going on. And we as a nation are allowing this to continue to happen over and over and over again. This is not a pastime we should keep holding on to like it's some type of a Christmas card or a holiday wishing. This is something we should be able to get rid of. And we have a hard time getting rid of it in Montgomery County. How do we get rid of it when it comes to the Supreme Court in the nation?
Well, I don't quite agree with you. I don't think it's just white men who get away with it. I think it's not only white men who get away with it, but other people who have the support of white men. Because we just talked about Clarence Thomas. We could talk about some other people who look very much like us, but who are not for us. And so, thank you, Pat. Because sometimes we get lost in all we have to do is think about
the color,
changing white men's minds. We have a lot of work to do. Yeah. But I really want to hear, and I want you guys to hear as well, about Dr. Butler and what she's been up to, because I think this is really, really interesting and exciting. Not that what we're talking about is not interesting and exciting, but Dr. Butler, we're ready for you.
Oh, sorry about that. I was sitting over here trying to send some photos, but I will just share because I believe a lot of folks were able to see the video last time where we were. So I'll just say I'm really excited to be back on this continent.
We haven't seen the video.
We haven't seen the video. What video are you talking about?
Okay.
So you could share screen. I'm sorry, you could show us the video because I have it set up so you can share screen.
Oh, okay. Let me see.
We should do a setup. Can you tell us what the video is about and why we should see it?
For a second, tell you guys, I just got back from Ghana. Now I'm not saying that, and I'll tell you, coming back to the United States was kind of grim, depressing because the weather was horrible. I came from 80 to 100 degree weather, sunshine, 12 hours a day. I mean, beautiful, beautiful country. And it was just so breathtaking for me. And because I've been doing work in Ghana since 2018, we broke ground. And Gapbuster, if people don't know, I'm the executive director of Gapbuster Incorporated. It's a nonprofit that's located here in the United States that's been around for 22 years now. And we actually expanded into Ghana in 2017. And obtained an MOU, a Memorandum of Understanding from the Department of Education there in the country when the new administration came in. And it was to expose the girl child to STEM, some of the same similar things we're doing here in the United States. So, of course, we went in and we were so excited. So we go and do a needs assessment. This is 2017. So we get there and unfortunately, you can't, and we will work with the village schools. We didn't go to Accra. We went to the village, and it's in the eastern region because Ghana is now broken up into 16 regions. It used to be 8 regions when we first went there. So we went to one of the largest regions that's closest to Accra so that we would have access to get back and forth to the airport with more ease, as well as to resources, because Accra has all the resources. Like
Dr. Butler, most people who don't know how Ghana is set up with region stuff, you want to explain what Accra is?
Oh, yeah. So Accra is the capital of Ghana. And Accra actually is like the big city, just like the capital, Washington, D.C. is our capital. Accra is the capital of Ghana. Ghana has approximately 31 million people as far as the population. And over 80% of the population will actually live in Accra. So you can imagine with that huge population and majority of them living within the city of the country, they call it choked. We call it congested. So it's just people on top of people on top of people in one area. So the other areas of Ghana, which is more countryside, they have been void of resources. And so they have Accra, and then they have what's called Kumasi. So those are two biggest places they talk about in Ghana. And they talk about Kumasi because Kumasi, if you know anything about Ghana and about the Ashanti Kingdom is in Kumasi. So as we know, kings and queens, most countries don't have them anymore. But the last empire, one of the last empires, there's 3 left on the continent now, and Ghana has one of the last empires where there's a king and queen, and that's the king of Ashanti lives in Kumasi. So you have Accra, which is your big hub because it's the city, the airport's there, the international airport, I'd say. Then you have Kumasi, where the king and all the legacy of the entire Ashanti kingdom comes from. And so those are 2 main areas. And of course, Kumasi is like 3 hours away from Accra. And so we end up going to what's called the Eastern region, which is only 30 minutes or 45 minutes from Accra, so which is the main city. So someone, you put in the comments, Accra, Ghana. Okay, so I'm looking at the comments too. So we have been doing programs now internationally since 2004 in South Africa. And then we decided to go to Ghana. And it's by the way, thank you for sharing those beautiful pictures. This is Ghana. And if you haven't been there, it's breathtaking. And most people who've gone to Africa, they've gone to South Africa. I'm going to tell you honestly, if you've gone to South Africa, you have not gone to Africa. South Africa is so commercialized like we are here. You have to go to other areas. Ghana is also the port. It has 78% of all the dungeons, and they call them castles, the dungeons which African Americans who went to that Mid-Atlantic slave trade came out of. And so it's right on the coast, and like I said, it's 78% of all of the dungeons. So the majority of us who came through that Mid-Atlantic slave trade actually probably came out of Ghana. And so if you haven't done your DNA, I tell people to do their DNA because it's, I found out that I'm connected to that whole coast. So I know that my ancestors came out of one of those dungeons, and I think probably Amina, because I tell people you have to visit and go through those dungeons because you will feel, everyone has a different experience, but you will feel connected no matter what. Everyone all of a sudden feels connected to the continent when they go to Ghana and go through those dungeons. I did not get that same experience when I went to South Africa, also when I went to Ethiopia. Nowhere near did I get that same experience. And I'll tell you, it is truly an experience, and I feel that everyone, no matter where you come from, if everyone could get that experience and that exposure, because you'll be a changed person. And I think the things we're talking about now, a lot of these will just dissipate because the racial insensitivity that occurs in this country, and I tell people who are non-African American or come from that Mid-Atlantic slave trade to please visit because you'll have a changed mind. You'll understand, and you'll be a different person coming back to this continent. And and I say that, and I know this honestly because one of my good friends who, and she happens to be white, she went with me, and I'll tell you, today she's still a different person, and she came back being such an advocate for education and promoting and really assisting Blacks wherever they are. And when she left, it was like, she did her part, I guess, but now she's going beyond and above and beyond what her part is. And I think that exposure, and she claims that exposure happened from her experience of going to Ghana, going through those dungeons, realizing how resilient and how only the strongest of us survived, because 2/3 of those who came through that passage died. And the majority of us went to the West Indies, and people don't realize that. The majority of the slaves who came from the Mid-Atlantic slave trade went to the West Indies. and the United States start breeding us after a while. And the West Indies, they were importing for years. So that's Ghana in a nutshell. So we have been doing programs there in Ghana to actually change and, to really bring STEM to the country and allow students in the countryside to have the same type of exposure and experience that our students here in the United States have. Not even Accra, but our students here in the United States have. And I think they deserve that. And so that's what I've been doing for the last couple of years. And I'm excited because I just got back as I'm trying to pull the video up. It's on YouTube. I'm trying to pull it up, everyone. So let me minimize this and pull it up again.
Well, as you've been doing this and as you've been bringing information and understanding and action to Ghana and to the United States, I still think, like you said, there's a sense of when you go to a place, when you actually feel the presence of a place, it can turn into an action because we feel like there's a lot of things we have missed. I know that's how people feel when they're Jewish and they go to Israel. I know that's how people feel if they're of a descent and they go back home and they have never been back there. And I think that's part of what you're talking about. It is that connection to all of us.
Correct. And I tell people, everyone could do their part. And if everyone unifies, everyone does one small thing, it will make a multitude of difference, especially partnering to do so. So I do have the video just to tell you a little bit about what we're doing there. Can you guys see this on your screen?
Yep.
Okay, so as I was saying before, we did a needs assessment, and so we realized that we had to do a lot more than just go in and educate. So, let me make sure to share the sound. Share sound.
You turn the volume up there.
Oh, I share sound. Okay, here we go.
Welcome to Gapbuster. Gapbuster is a nonprofit organization that has provided service nationally and internationally for 21 years. Through supplemental education, enrichment programs, and leadership development training, Gapbuster develops well-rounded individuals positioned to excel in academic, social, and professional environments. We strive to enable students to meet their full potential in spite of socioeconomic disadvantage. But we can't do this alone. We have to depend on donations from you. Join us as you learn more about our expansion into Ghana. In 2019, we were able to expand into Ghana and open an NGO called Gapbuster Ghana. In partnership with the local school municipalities and All Nations University, we were able to expose students to STEM and provide academic enrichment programs. We also were able to build a library and a computer lab with the help of IMF and the People's Community Baptist Church. Let's hear from the students.
Okay. How do you think this library is important to you and the school as a whole?
This library is important to me because it has helped me come across new words that I didn't know and words that I don't know their meaning. This library has helped me come across them, and this library also has helped the school improve on their academic work, and it has also improved our academic work and the knowledge we have about this world. It has helped us know more about the future, and it has also helped us know more about the nature and the world that we are in now.
During the pandemic, we were able to expose the Ghanaian students in their new library to cross-cultural exchange and learning using the internet. They were able to work with our students in the United States.
I am pleased, and we just want to encourage more faith communities to do this, more faith-based organizations. These are what we award, these are the things that we recognize when we talk about economic development, in the area of education, in the area of health, in the area of agriculture. And so this is not near Accra, Ghana. but it's worth traveling the miles and the hours to come to this area. Where are we again?
Effigiasi Koforidua.
Effigiasi
Koforidua.
Say it to the...
Effigiasi Koforidua. Koforidua is the capital town of the Eastern region.
Amen. So it's good. It doesn't matter.
We want to thank Pastor DK for being able to visit Gapbuster Ghana's computer lab. We were also able to outfit the classrooms. These are the old desks. And with the help of IMF and the generous donations, we were able to make a difference. We also want to thank the Plummer family. The Plummer family helped organize a library and also tile the floors. These are the new classrooms. The students now are able to work in groups, do peer engagement during class time, and we also have been able to provide the staff with resources for teaching and learning. We also built bathrooms. These are the old bathrooms. With the help of generous donations from the community, we've been able to build 8 new bathrooms. And here are the bathrooms now. In addition to the bathrooms, we also were able to build a new cafeteria. This is the old cafeteria, where their meals were prepared and served to the students and the staff. This is the new cafeteria. Here's a lobby area where the bathrooms are located. We have also been able to build an entire new kitchen. And here is the kitchen now. It's soon to be outfitted with the stove, refrigerators, and the sinks. And the dining hall is here. This is where their meals will be prepared and served for the students and staff. We've been lucky enough to ship in supplies as well. And here's a flooring that was all shipped in. And we're almost there. Here's the ceiling being prepared. Here is the ceiling now. But without generous donations from the community, we will not be able to complete this project. We need your help today. The children of Gapbuster Ghana would like to thank you for all the support that you've provided, but there still is more needed. So please consider making a tax-deductible donation today to Gapbuster. Please go to www.gapbuster.org. Once again, www.gapbuster.org, and make a tax-deductible donation today. Thank you for watching. I'm trying to stop it. Okay.
That's just beautiful. That is just...
Welcome
excellent.
to Gapbuster.
Stop it. Wait a minute.
Gapbuster is a non-profit.
Okay, there we go. Okay. Let me stop sharing. Okay.
Oh, awesome.
So just to that, I did that video 6 months ago, and I said I just got back. We have actually completed the entire hall. It is now, the flooring and everything is in, and I will send pictures so that Marilyn can share those. So we're trying to do another video with that. So we completed the bathroom. We have indoor plumbing. The water's running. We've done the flooring. The whole building is painted now, and I'm really excited. So now we're even putting a playground in for the KG, because we were so focused on the P6 through JHS1. We decided we had to do something for the kindergartners and the first graders. So we're putting a complete playground in, and we're closing that off just for them. And we also sent over resources for the primary, for the, I would say KG to P5 for those students. So we're excited, and we've been asked now to do a magnet program. So in August, we're going to be commissioning the building as well as opening the playground up. There will be it'll be all finished within 2 weeks. The playground and everything. My husband's still there. I came back this past week because IMF has donated more items to us. So I came back to make sure those items got in the container on Thursday and they'll be shipped off. So they donated a stage, more furniture, all the cafeteria tables have been donated, as well as all the chairs and everything for the cafeteria. They've all been donated. So we're excited.
Michelle Miner, Ms. Miner, you have a question.
You're still muted.
You're still muted. There you go.
No, I just said congratulations.
Oh, okay. Does anyone have any questions for Dr. Yvette Butler?
That is so beautiful. And all the work that you're doing. I was surprised to see boys there because you said that it was a girls program. I mean, all young people should be educated. That's not my point. My point is there are boys and girls in the school, it seems.
Yes. And so we're targeting the girl child, but we can't make it only girls. So we had a summer camp this summer. And so the way that we give the girls a preference, the girls were there 3 weeks or 2 weeks, and the boys were there 1 week. So the girls got a 2-week advantage over the boys. So because we can't exclude them completely because my husband won't let me. Even though I wish we could.
No, not to be excluded. Like I said, I just didn't expect them to be there. And I'm glad that all children are being educated, because when you educate a child, you educate the world. And
yes,
that's excellent. The work that you are doing is just
Teresa,
absolutely
you have a question?
Wonderful.
Yes, thank you for enlightening me on this particular program. I just wanted to know, is there a cost to the student to being a part of this program?
No, we only work with the public school system, and all the public schools are free in Ghana. So no, we don't have any costs at all to the students. And that's why we only work with the public. We don't work with private. There's many private schools there who've wanted us to get involved, but private schools, parents are able to pay for the students to go there. So they're able to provide more resources. So the public schools do not have those resources. So we only work with public schools, and there's no cost at all to the children.
Thank you. Another question I had was you said STEM. I hear a lot of people now saying STEAM.
Yes.
So will STEAM be integrated into STEM in your particular program?
Well, actually, it's already integrated into the program. And so, but we wrote it up as STEM because that was the same focus what the president put into his initiative. But our program is a STEAM program that we have brought there. And one thing to note, this summer we're doing a summer program this summer, and we're taking over actually artists with us to do art with the students, because in primary school, they don't do art, not until they get into high school, and it's an elective. So they don't do any type of visual arts. They do the native or cultural arts that are known for the country as far as their dance and their playing of the drums and things like that. But they don't do art as we see here. There's no visual arts at all. And so we're bringing some visual artists over to help them learn visual art for middle schoolers.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm. Thank you.
As time runs down here on You Be the Judge, we'd like to thank everyone showing up at 6 p.m. every Wednesday. You Be the Judge. I'm Dr. Paul Dyer, Marilyn Pierre, who's running for Circuit Court Judge of Montgomery County here in Maryland, and Judge Claudia Barbara. I know we like to say thank you for everyone who participates, likes, shares, and who contributes to the program. Marilyn, you want to say anything before we take off?
Oh, I just want to say the same thing. I just want to thank everyone. We had such a wonderful discussion. I think we need to talk about what Holly said in reference to. Oh, do you want to say what she put in the chat?
Oh, what did she put? Say it.
Oh, okay.
Read it.
Well, I have to go back, but I thought that it was a great point that she talks about. If someone shows up, we should talk about how if someone shows up at the polls, they have to make sure that they vote before they leave, because they could do a provisional ballot, and that might get looked upon and actually get counted later on. But if they just leave, then their vote will not be counted at all. And you already talked about the point that Bernadette made.
Yes, and it goes back to this voter education and getting in meeting, like Dr. Yvette Butler said, going to meeting people where they're at and just taking the time, whether you're running for something or not running for something, just to educate people. We need people. Mm-hmm. We need it to have what you call a cohesive republic. We need you. We need you, all of you. So yes, let's make history with Marilyn Pierre. Let's do that. Anything else before we take off? Anyone?
Well, I wanted to say thank you, and thank you, Marilyn, for allowing me this opportunity to share Gapbuster, because it's a passion of mine, and I just, I don't know how I fell into this, because I did a transformational shift from my career, because when they say Dr. Butler, I'm an MD, not a PhD, didn't learn anything about education. I actually was a professor at Howard University, and I left all that and started an NGO, and just decided I did it.
Yeah.
And one day we have to talk about all your great students with Gapbusters, because what you do in this country is you help young people, close the gap. And you've had Bill Gates scholars and a bunch of other achievements. And it's amazing the work that you do on, it's both sides of the world. So thank you.
Teresa?
And now they're making inroads, so it's good.
Mm-hmm.
No, I was just I was just trying to absorb all of Gapbusters, and I was thinking probably more in the future about exchange students, having students from here go there and having them come here as well, because I think that needs to be something that happens amongst the young Black children
We probably need more students to go there than these students to come here.
No, they need to come here.
I think
actually, we have an exchange program already. We were supposed to have our first group of students coming in 2020. We had 8 students from there due to come here. But of course, as you know what happened, and we were taking actually 12 students from here to Ghana. And so that didn't happen because of what's gone on. And we actually did an exchange program with South Africa, took over 120 students back and forth to South Africa. So Ghana, we were planning to do it. So now we're just waiting so we can get more of this stuff done. As things go down, we're hoping to actually kick that program and next year we're looking to hopefully bring students here 2023.
Thanks everyone for listening to You Be the Judge and join us next week.
Thank you. And they would host families.